The member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Speaker, last week we had the pleasure of Mr. Alfred App's debut at the Public Accounts Committee. The Premier, I'm sure, has been well briefed on the fact that the former President of the Liberal Party of Canada was not very complimentary to his government or to the Auditor General. He was helpful, though, in that he confirmed for us that the Premier met with the now infamous Dr. Mazza, and that there was a discussion during that meeting about Ornge and how well things were going there.
Wow, so you knew all along.
Does the Premier recall that meeting with Dr. Mazza, and can he tell us today what the nature of that discussion was?
Premier.
Speaker, the Minister of Community and Social Services.
House Leader.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Again, as we spoke yesterday,
The Minister of Finance is not helping. House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as we spoke yesterday, as we've spoken numerous times in this legislature, the Public Accounts Committee is in the middle of hearings into the Ornge situation. The member referenced the testimony of Alfred Apps. Tomorrow the committee will be sitting again. We'll be hearing from a long list of witnesses that have been agreed upon by all parties working together. Barry McClellan, board member of Ornge, Tim Shorthill, Chief of Staff, Ministry of Finance, Carol McHugh, Deputy Director, Legal Services Branch, Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, and the list goes on. Mr. Speaker, there is an opportunity for members of this House, on all sides of the House, to pose questions to these witnesses and put together a report of their findings in terms of Ornge. I think it's time that the honourable member let the committee do its work and look into a whole range of matters that go forward.
Supplementary.
Speaker, how can the government House Leader possibly know the answer to the question that I put to the Premier? Namely, what was the nature of the discussion that you had with Dr. Mazza? I presented to Mr. Apps a memo that he, Mr. Apps, wrote as direction to Dr. Mazza, his client at the time, prior to a meeting with the then Health Minister. In that memo, his direction to Dr. Mazza is as follows, and I quote, "My advice, downplay meeting with the Premier. Perhaps not even mention it at all." End of quote. Well, Speaker, I wonder why he would get that direction from Mr. Apps, and I wonder if the Premier has had the same instructions to downplay his meeting with Dr. Mazza, which is why he's refusing to answer the question today. I ask the Premier one more time. Does he recall his meeting with Dr. Mazza, and can he tell us what was discussed at that meeting?
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker,
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member wishes to conduct committee hearings here on the floor of the House, perhaps he can talk about the relationship between his party and Kelly Mitchell, who's a top Hudak insider. He received $400,000 specifically to lobby and schmooze PC MPPs for Ornge and its subsidiaries. Kelly Mitchell received lobbying contracts while serving as a board member at Ornge for its profits. He was a top fundraiser and close advisor for the PC leadership campaign. Mitchell and his company donated over $17,000 to the PC parties, 15 candidates, Mr. Speaker, and personally donated $7,500. If the member insists upon holding committee hearings here on the floor of the House, we'd like to know a little bit more about Kelly Mitchell.